Okay, he's here, the oldest Eagle Scout in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen, with the best sense of humor. Representative Brendan Boyle. Hello, good morning, Representative.
Yay!
Pardon me, I'm now on the phone instead of doing this by video. So
that's okay.
So I hope this would help make me at least sound older.
I know. At least people can't see you, so I can't mock you mercilessly for looking 12 years old. All right, because you are you are an esteemed congressman, and you're doing. Every time I see you on TV, I'm like, you're doing great. So thank you for having a good sense of humor.
Yeah, no problem, and I appreciate that.
So, by the way, we were just playing, this audio of Louis DeJoy and just his smugness about, I'm going to be here a long time, get used to me. And, someone had tweeted to you, Joe Biden can't fire Louis DeJoy directly, but we need to be rid of him the earliest available opportunity. And you said agreed. Turning around the Postal Service must include getting rid of Louis DeJoy. And on cue, Joe Biden's right. The president is appointing 3 Democrats to the Postal Board who will do it, presumably, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the president can't fire DeJoy directly, but by appointing a majority of the Postal Board, they will be able to do that. So let me put it this way. I hope Louis DeJoy didn't get a long mortgage when he moved here to Washington last June, because I think, despite what he said that he's going to be there a long time, that he's going to get a rude awakening pretty soon. I mean, the sort of issues we've been dealing with in the Postal Service have been terrible nationwide, but they've been more acute in my area of the Philadelphia area than anywhere else in the country, and that's been documented through delays in postal delivery, all sorts of chicanery that happened coincidentally right around election time in terms of sorting machines that were taken out and destroyed for pretty expensive machines. We did a number of press events with the labor unions that represent these postal workers, who were basically telling us what was happening in the inside. Some of them were taking video. DeJoy is a very bad actor, and getting rid of him is absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Tess, in going to your sense of humor, you've been on fire on Twitter lately. Can I just say? Someone named Douglas tweeted you, "You're still the greatest turd in the Philadelphia area," and you said that's mean. Only the Philly area?
Good answer.
So you're dealing with trolls on Twitter, and some of your fellow congresspeople are also just trolls, basically, right? I mean, I don't know what to say about these people that, we were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, that apparently are just there to troll, to own the libs. They're really not there to legislate. I don't know how you deal with that.
So funny enough, her office is right down the hall from mine, and I walk by it every day to get to my office. But yeah, so there's been a culture change that, forget the false equivalency. This doesn't exist on the left. It's a phenomenon on the right, that there are a few people, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, who are not here to legislate, really couldn't care less about that. They're here basically to get Twitter followers, get on Fox News as much as possible. It's almost as if this is the stepping stone to hosting their own show on Fox News.
Yes.
It's totally different from why I always, dreamt about being in Congress and passing meaningful legislation. It's just a completely different mindset.
Yeah, I mean, Representative, I keep saying that. They're performance artists. Lauren Boebert is just, how many guns can I have behind me when I'm, I was talking about Ted Cruz making bacon on his AR-15 rather than actually helping. They're more interested. Greg Abbott runs to Fox News to blame AOC and the Green Deal. I mean, it's just, as a party, it doesn't seem like they're interested in leading, in legislating. As you say, they're just there to own the libs, to be performance artists on Fox News or on Twitter. And I don't know how there's all this talk of bipartisanship and unity, but how do you personally work with that?
The good news is those folks, even though they get the most attention, and by the way, that's also part of the problem. Unfortunately, they're rewarded for that sort of behavior by getting the attention they so crave. But actually, there are Republican members who aren't very well known, who behind the scenes actually do work constructively and are more old-fashioned in that sense. So it's not all. The good news is, if there is a small piece of good news, the Matt Gaetzes of the world, the Boeberts of the world, they actually still are the minority on the other side. What concerns me, though, is that crowd is growing.
Yeah.
And so where will things be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? That really scares me.
Yeah. Speaking of performance artists, God bless you for calling this out, because obviously I'm in the media, and Philip Bump tweeted, perhaps you heard Tucker Carlson said his team couldn't find QAnon. He did this whole thing last night that we tried to find QAnon, like as if it's just a website, right? They said we couldn't find, like it doesn't exist. And you said Tucker Carlson's a total fraud. It's all an act. This is a guy, to my knowledge, the only person in TV history to have hosted shows on Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. At each, he adopted a persona that fit the network. It's all a grift, folks.
Yep.
Thank you, because I started out with people. I hosted Equal Time 1,000 years ago with Babe Buchanan, and I remember Ann Coulter and others like that. There were just a million of them, and some of them were like, "Oh, I have to start saying crazier things to sell more books," right? I mean, it is all a grift.
All a grift. Look, I mean, I can't believe more people don't bring this up. I was surprised at the number of people who expressed surprise when I pointed out, Tucker Carlson hosted his own show on MSNBC just over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And at each, now he wasn't exactly Rachel Maddow, and the network then wasn't exactly what it is now, but it was clearly a solidly left of center network, and he fit very well in that as kind of playing the role of the respectable, thoughtful conservative who would sometimes criticize the Republican Party. On CNN, he was more trying to be George F. Will Jr., and then on Fox News, all of a sudden he reinvents himself again into Rush Limbaugh on steroids. It's all an act. It's all BS.
Listen, you're speaking my language, Representative. I work in my basement because I stick to my principles. That's what happens to those of us.
Well, thank you for doing it. I wish more people could see through the BS.
But we've joked about it. Not to make this about me. We have so much to talk about. But I mean, my dad was a Republican congressman and Barry Goldwater's running mate. And I don't know how many times I've heard, if you just said you went back to your roots, you'd get 500 stations tomorrow. But some of us actually have to talk about what we really believe. And you're right. I think the tragedy is that their audience doesn't get it's a grift, and they don't really have any principles other than money. Just like Donald Trump, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will, and I've been quiet about Limbaugh's passing. I've been constrained, controlling myself. But I will say this. I will give the man credit. He was enormously talented, and he's the one who invented this whole genre. And everyone else has just basically been ripping off his act for the last 25 years.
Yeah. Now, I said, and we said the day it happened, Representative, I don't celebrate his death, but I mourn his life and that he didn't use his considerable broadcasting talents for good, But anyway, and I didn't say anything because I'm a Catholic girl, and I smell former Catholic boy. Are you a former Catholic boy?
I am Catholic, former altar boy, went to Catholic school.
I can smell it.
There you go. The whole deal. Yeah.
But I just loved your tweet. Bill Hemmer on Fox, speaking of Fox, said if they start canceling these American presidents, they're going to come after Bible characters next, mark my words. And you tweeted, hey, Bill Hemmer, there's even a story in this Bible about the guy the authorities canceled because he kept yammering on about helping the poor and the foreigner. It has a happy ending, though. Oh, that was such good biblical humor.
Oh, yes.
Wow. I deal a lot with what we're trying to call the religious left. We're basically showing that you can be a person of faith and actually want to help the homeless, want to help the poor.
Absolutely.
I seem to recall the Bible saying, saying something at once or twice or a million times. It's been a real frustration of mine that the religious right has so co-opted quote unquote values, and that is one of the greatest injustices or really just sham that has taken place in my lifetime, the way they've been able to co-opt what I think is generally a very left of center genre of issues. Yeah.
And Representative, I think it's, watching these Capitol hearings, I keep hearing this phrase that resonates that, something happens and Republicans ask, who can we blame? And Democrats ask, how can we help? And I think we just saw that in Texas. These Capitol riots, it was a lot of finger pointing and blame shifting, and some of the people that were complicit, like Hawley and Cruz, like just all they're concerned about is covering their own ass and not really getting to the bottom of what happened to all of you and how to prevent it. You said I'm one person who lived through this nightmare who really wants to know what Donald Trump was doing in those 5 or 6 hours, what he was doing and what he was failing to do. And they seem mostly interested in getting rid of the Capitol Guard there now. And without saying the reason they're there now is you won't say this was not a stolen election, right?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why, and I know there's been a lot of talk about a 9/11-like mission. I don't necessarily oppose that. I just want to make sure that does not preclude a criminal investigation happening in parallel. And I mean a criminal investigation that looks at everything and everybody and has subpoena power. Because to me, as I tweeted, the thing I want to know more than anything else is what Donald Trump was doing that afternoon, what he was being asked to do, and what he was refusing to do. I mean, I've certainly heard rumors around here and some buzzing among Republican colleagues who have let me know who was calling and asking for help, and we weren't getting it while we were under attack. But that needs to take place as part of a criminal investigation with subpoena power. And that's something I feel very strongly about.
Well, particularly after watching these hearings, and the Republicans, once again, not interested in getting to the bottom of everything. You have Ron Johnson doing, disinformation and, others just concerned that they're going to be called complicit. It's just, Anyway, let's get to the meat. You said, you tweeted, I'm proud to co-sponsor H.R. 1, which will end the dominance of big money in politics, restore ethics and accountability, and protect the right to vote. I mean, Representative, I was saying earlier in the show, clearly COVID relief is job one, and obviously it looks like we're getting that done this week. But I would almost argue, but this is the only important thing after that, because none of the other issues are going to matter, because all Republicans are working on is how to suppress the vote after this last election, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, first, just so we don't, skip over the really good news that the American Rescue Plan, I'm vice chair of the Budget Committee. We voted it out on Monday. The full House will vote on it, and I strongly believe approve it on Friday, and so that tees it up to the Senate. This is actually, if you go back and look at history of Gallup polling over the last 50 years, this is the single most popular economic plan of any president in my life. And so proud to have worked on it, have my fingerprints on some aspects of it that we were able to get into the package. It's remarkable how much support there is in the country. The polling shows 70-80% of the American people, including a majority of Republicans.
60%.
So when people say it's not bipartisan, it is bipartisan. The vast majority of the American people support it. So that is the most important thing happening right now, given the pandemic. Well, as I said, the House will do it this week, and then the Senate within the next week or two. Then after that, I think you're right. I would say H.R. 1, but also, and related to that, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, exactly.
Given all of the voter suppression measures that are happening right now in the various states, I do think moving to that, as well as infrastructure, is where we're going to go next. And it's also why, and I'm in the House, but I strongly urge my Democratic colleagues in the Senate to either amend the filibuster so that way it's more limited, or do what I would just prefer them to do and scrap it altogether. Because we cannot allow measures like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to die by a filibuster, even though it has majority.
Yeah, I agree. Representative Brendan Boyle, we appreciate that you wildly expand our listenership among Catholic boys and Weeblos in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Oh, stop it, Stephanie.
Whenever you come on. And also for all
Thank
your...
you, I think.
I
appreciate it as always.
Always appreciate your fabulous work in Congress and on TV. Keep fighting the good fight. Thanks, Representative.